time is 6:30, so we will call this work session of the mayor and council, city of Snellville, Georgia, for April the 9th to order.
Oh, ribbon cutting.
We'll go over first the regular meeting agenda. Not a whole lot on the agenda tonight. We do have a first reading on RZ 18-02, which is the Pinehurst development again.
Could we talk about that a little
Sure.
bit? So we're all on the same page or have the same information. I know Dave and I think Christy and I talked on Saturday when we were at that Gravity grand opening or whatever it was. And the concern expressed was the setback, the front setback. And so I emailed Jason and I asked him if he would provide information for us on how that proposed subdivision compares to other smaller neighborhoods we've approved in the past.
So you're talking about the front setback from the front of the house to the street?
However,
Okay.
well, just to kind of go over it, it's been prescribed different ways throughout kind of the history of the subdivision development, where some are from the right of way and some are from the back curb, but the main problem or issue that we're dealing with is the cars hanging into the sidewalk. That's the concern. So, we went back and picked a few that have happened in the past, and they're represented on your front sheet there. We looked at Carrington Village, which had approved a 10-foot setback from the end of the right-of-way, which includes the sidewalk and the beauty strip in the front and back of the sidewalk. We looked at Old Hickory, which is a 5-foot setback from the right-of-way. The Preserve at Briscoe is 10 feet. We didn't actually take any pictures of that, but there's issues on that one. And then recently Shadowbrook, which was 20-foot front setback from the back of curb, which works out to like a 16.5, 17-foot driveway, sometimes more on some of them. And then we looked at Stockton Walk. So we also, in an effort to represent vehicle lanes, looked up some normal, some of the issues, which are the trucks, which range from usually 18 to 19 feet. The bigger ones, like the F-250s, can get up to 22 feet, and then passenger vans are usually 18.5 feet. And then our commercial parking stall is 9 by 19, just to kind of put that in reference. So if you follow through, the pictures kind of tell the story better than the numbers. Stockton Walk we looked at doesn't have sidewalks, so just took a picture, and that's your first picture. And then the next page is Carrington Village, and that's your typical lot layout, which kind of explains a lot more of what you're seeing there. It even says a 10-foot length basically for the sidewalk, and we all know if you're not parking in the garage, that isn't going to work. So we had an excellent opportunity to take a picture with the next one, which is a sedan, and then an F-150, and you can see that both of those are pretty snug to the garage, but yet they're still on the sidewalk. So that was an issue. We went through the same thing at Old Hickory, which is a 5-foot building setback. If you kind of flip past the lot layout, and then you can see that there's a car, just a basic passenger car, it's blocking the right of way, and then that next picture just shows how shallow those driveways are. That one probably has 8 feet. You couldn't get a car in there sideways maybe and keep it out of the sidewalk.
Well, if you look in the rearview mirror on that picture, you see 2 cars and 3 cars that don't fit.
And there was actually a situation coming out where there were 2 cars across the street from each other hanging into the sidewalk. Where if someone had to use the sidewalk, they would have had to enter into the street. So that's Old Hickory, and then the last one we did was Shadowbrook, where we're a little more aware of that. So the parking, the driveways are a little larger, and we didn't find an instance where there was really not a lot of cars in driveways over there because they're not all the way done. But we even found a larger Escalade that was easily accommodated.
And that's the 20?
That's
That
the
one has a
20.
20?
That's from the back of curb,
The
so
20
that's not
inch
even
high.
counting the 30-inch grass strip and the sidewalk there. So it's probably more like a 16.5, 17, and that's just the minimum. Most of the lots aren't always pushed all the way up. If they have the ability to make them larger, that's a worst case scenario. So I think that one's a little bit larger. And, that was kind of the research we did, and then I understand, so if you set a condition and the zoning and you're worried about that, and you wanted to set an actual condition to address it, you could easily just set a number at the back of, the sidewalk, and whatever that number be. I think we've got it listed now as 20 feet from the right of way, which turns it into even larger than 20 feet once, because it's a 50-foot right of way. But just for clarity, the applicant is gonna submit a lot layout, which will let you see everything. And then you could set a condition based on whatever number you found that to be, where 20 is about the average we saw in cars, the longest, unless you get into some of the bigger work trucks, like the F-250s, and anything bigger than that's not allowed in a residential district anyways, 'cause
Okay.
it's too big. So
So
that
it's-
was the concern, and here's the, the data basically.
Of the subdivisions you have listed here, how many are age restricted?
None of those are
No.
age restricted.
None of them are?
Now, see, they were built in a different time where when you went to the smaller lots, by going to the smaller lots, you were basically building an age-restricted development, like Carrington, it's got gates. But, and a lot, at that time, people were actually putting their cars in their garages. Well, now everybody, because they moved into these smaller houses, are putting all their stuff in the garage. So their cars are sitting in the driveway, and that's what you get. So, times have changed now, it's not just, older, couples that move into these places. I mean, Shadowbrook is all family. There's, they have usually like, the family and maybe even the grandparents living there. So there may be even more cars.
I knew but I thought Old Hickory was in
No, it
Stockton
wasn't
Wall.
age restricted either, but it was built in a
Yeah.
manner that promoted that. You didn't see a lot of kids in there. Now you're seeing more and more kids over there as the needs of the family.
Because that's, my biggest concern is you have a car blocking the driveway, maybe hanging over the sidewalk. And I think the Pinehurst subdivision could have a lot more kids in it. And you can come around the corner, and if the kid can't see, and the person driving in can't see, you can't cure it, but I think we need at least a 22-foot in the back of the sidewalk. Here's my thought.
I think it certainly needs to be addressed, whatever that number is up to you guys, but, obviously, I don't think this situation didn't occur when these things were, because what we're doing then, we still are to a degree until the UDO is adopted, is we were taking the RS 50, which was a 40-foot right away. I mean, it's 40 foot back, there's no concerns there. And trying to chop it into these smaller pieces, and the ways to do that were to adjust the setbacks on all sides, but nobody, the repercussions of that front yard setback weren't realized until people literally started parking their cars there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I think the disconnect occurred at some point.
Yeah, and you've got a, 24-foot wide street going up the center of it.
Typically 12 on each lane, and then you count another foot for the curb and gutter, and then, whatever's outside of that on each side is, it's gonna be a 50-foot right-of-way, so there'll be 25 feet, and then the driveway sometimes is encompassed in that. And when you got a 5-foot setback from the right of way, it ends up being like a 10 or 12-foot driveway. Like in Old Hickory, and that doesn't work. PRC is the same way, like the preserve is the same issues. And that zoning has been discontinued, luckily.
Okay.
So it won't happen anymore.
So Dave, you want reduction of the front yard building setback from 40 feet right-of-way line to 22 feet?
No, you can
Not 20?
leave, that,
can
because
leave the
that's
40?
regarding the structure.
Okay.
That could be the front of the house, and
So
the
that's-
garage could be recessed. You could simply
Oh,
just
okay.
add a condition that says.
So adding
Recess the
other.
garage.
22 feet,
from the
driveway
garage.
length has to be a minimum of 22 feet from the sidewalk.
Yeah, back
Okay,
edge
so
of the
that-
sidewalk.
that
That's all you
isn't-
have to add.
in here?
No,
That isn't in here at all.
no,
We
we
just
could
need to add it.
we could add that from
Yeah,
now.
from here
and,
to here.
The next reading, and that's why.
From the sidewalk to the house
It's a
has
good
to
idea
be,
for
to the
Gretchen
garage
bring
has
it
to be
up
22
now,
feet or more.
So we don't kind of get, stuck on it.
At the last minute.
Okay.
No,
We
I-
can amend the
yeah.
amendments to,
And
if
so-
you guys agree to the actual ordinance, and it'll be ready next time.
And so then they can just recess the garage if they want to make the driveway a
Yeah.
little longer.
Or however they want to
Yeah.
need it.
Well, however they want to do it,
Yeah,
but that
how
would
they-
be one solution.
Would that actually go under a condition or a variance?
Well, it wouldn't be a variance because
So
you're
condition.
basically varying the setback of the house, you just, a condition I think would work fine, would
Okay.
it, Tony? Would it be
Yes.
okay? I think that's the correct way. That, and that leaves that other variance intact and we don't have to change any of that, it just basically gives the applicant very clear instructions. And we should have the lot layout back by then too.
22.
One other, I wasn't on the council when it was initially, or heard the first time, but I do recall that one of the biggest issues was the visibility
Right away.
coming out of the neighborhood onto Pinehurst. And we met with
Right.
Mr. Schroeder, about 6 weeks ago or so. And,
Yeah, there it is.
he
12.
did tell us that they're gonna cut back the vegetation along Pinehurst there to improve the visibility.
Vehicle approaching warning sign.
And also he said that they will pursue with the DOT
Right.
a flashing LED sign to
Mhm.
warn of approaching traffic.
That's in here.
But I would like to see, and I don't think this is in there yet, that they not only cut back that vegetation, but I'd like to see that area landscaped with low-growing shrubbery.
Shrubs.
Not just cut back the vegetation, but
Right.
actually maintain it.
And don't recreate the problem again by
Mhm.
planting trees,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
we just need to allow them some flexibility in design to maintain visibility. We could add that as a condition as well, or we could handle that basically through an administrative condition when they turn in the site plan. It just depends, but we also made them aware that they need to have some kind of agreement or permit in place with Gwinnett County before the gavel
Before.
swings, because we need to know what we're looking at.
Right.
So negotiations isn't good enough, they need to
Mhm.
have something
Okay.
solid from them. And we let them
For the
know.
flashing light?
Right.
Yeah, because
Right.
they had a design, Gwinnett had a standard,
Mhm.
and they were kind of stuck in between, but I told the developer and the traffic guy that they need to have something locked down, so everybody knows what they're voting on.
Cool.
And there's no XLD cell lane there, correct?
I don't
think so.
think they need one for 30, I can't remember, I thought he showed one in the sightline study. It's per the county, I don't,
Okay.
whatever they require. I know there was one for the one across.
And they're going down to 26 lots? Was that the
Well,
other?
that and then
Okay.
the 3 on Sycamore, so it's
Okay.
29 total.
29, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. That helps me feel better prepared for the
Any
next
questions
meeting.
too, just
And the
let us
lots
know.
on Sycamore aren't gonna be
Are
developed on the
gonna be
initial
developed
plan.
initially, yeah, I
They'll
read
probably be
that.
sold off to a builder, I mean, it could be the same builder, I mean, they could decide to build them, but they would have to meet the same requirements for
Mhm.
everything too. Except for road and all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else know of any other issues they have with this one that might be able to get?
No,
rid of?
I haven't looked at it closely enough, but I understand that, I think the third lot back on Sycamore is just a nightmare. That's the one they've got
It's like two triangles.
two triangles, and I don't know that somebody can't get to their water meter or,
Well, the planning commission did flesh that one out pretty good, and then that owner actually came in, and they were concerned, they said that they had had some prior agreement with the developer, and that had fallen through, and they were upset about that, but they have their well over somewhere.
something, yeah.
It's on their property, but they were more concerned about somebody being able to come in and like build, like basically right on top of them. So the planning commissioners had a condition where, they wouldn't be allowed to build any kind of roof accessory structures within that 25-foot buffer, which they could have before built a shed like right up. It's just a weird how that piece is cut out, I don't know how it got
Oh, there
like
it
that,
is.
but hopefully maybe they've made a deal with those people that kind of, they were supposed to buy some land on the backside and then do like a
25.
land swap or something, but
Wow.
they'll be back, those owners will be
Oh, I'm
back,
sure,
so.
okay.
Well, you know, it said in here that, well, the 3 lots aren't gonna be developed at this time. And if and when they are developed, first of all, they'd have to
Yeah.
hook up to the sewer if
Mhm.
available. And if not, then they'd have to get a permit for
Right, they'd have to.
a septic. But those 2 smaller lots, they're only about half an acre.
I think what's gonna happen is by necessity, they're gonna have to join they're gonna have to give half of that middle one to both of the ends to make it work.
For a septic system.
Septic, or even just like that last one, I don't think anybody's gonna buy a house with it sitting like that and then a 10, 20
Yeah.
foot wide swath to the back. So I think it'll take care of itself over time.
Okay. I feel better prepared.
Okay, so for tonight, we have the first reading that we'll waive and place on our April 26th,
23rd.
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 agenda. Okay, so next we have, for the award of the bid, I don't know if you all saw, for the joint library and municipal market building, we're gonna postpone that to our next meeting. If y'all didn't see Butch's email, there's a couple of reasons. One, he's not here tonight because there was a county transportation meeting that he was being strongly encouraged to attend, and he needs to be there so that we stay in the discussion down in South Gwinnett County for the transit plan with Gwinnett County. So he's there at that meeting tonight. So really want him to be here to be able to talk about it in more depth. The other issue was that the county's not gonna be able to get it on their agenda until May. So we have time to place it on our next meeting agenda. It gives us all some more time to go through the proposal. If you've got other questions or issues or anything about it, you go ahead and talk to Butch or talk to me, whoever you want to talk to, so that we can get all of that stuff ironed out before we come up to any kind of contract or awards on that. Okay?
We're gonna postpone till the 23rd or
Yes.
indefinitely? Okay.
Postponed to the 23rd.
Surplus.
Then we have action and approval on lease for contract to purchase a property. Is that exec session for tonight, for?
It is. It's probably the exec session before it comes public.
So we'll talk about that shortly.
Mhm.
And then we have a surplus vehicle.
It's not a motorcycle.
No, darn.
It's a shame.
I know. I'm not too interested in this one.
Me either. I think I had one of these, but mine was a
Anything else on the regular meeting?
1980.
Okay. Any correspondence from Butch? I don't see anything. Attorney's report?
We need a short executive session.
Okay.
Should be on that.
And then the update on ongoing projects. We have here, town center progress, we'll have the exec session to talk about a few things there. The Market Library, we just discussed, we're gonna award that contract on April 23rd. Got grand opening ribbon cutting procedure.
In front of you, you have something we came up with regarding the ribbon cutting, so as you come into the planning office upstairs, Neely will direct you, if you are a new business, to grab one of these sheets. They're also available on Eric's table upstairs, and that information is also on our website. But basically, it lets you know that we will be welcoming you to the city with a ribbon cutting. Previously, we had referred people to the Greater Eastside Chamber of Commerce. They would usually ask you to sign up, then we would do a ribbon cutting, but we had found that sort of problematic in some areas. So we actually had our first ribbon cutting this weekend. I know a lot of you were there. Kelly did a great job introducing a lot of the people that were there as well. Marcy and Marilyn were there. So hopefully in the future, we'll continue to welcome people to the city using that procedure. We also, if you don't remember, we have a ribbon cutting on the 11th, which is a GECC ribbon cutting, but we will still go to that. And then we have the
During the day.
what's that called? Golden Crust on the 24th, there's the 27th, and the Outback on the 30th. So those will be ribbon cuttings that I hope you all can attend. Also, you may notice too, we have a stormwater pamphlet that we had created that will help people know what to do with stormwater and what stormwater fees are and what they go toward.
Diverted into your neighbor's
Only
yard.
rain down the drain,
Catchy.
is what they
It's
say.
sketchy.
Curb your dog. Pet waste. My
Is
cat's
this
very-
a sample or is
That's the real one.
this the real one?
Your dog. Cool.
Very good.
I can do, is anyone gonna do the library thing Thursday? Is that just a stop by?
That's just a
Just
stop
a stop
by.
by,
That's
nothing
drop
official?
in.
Everyone's
30th
invited.
anniversary.
On the 12th?
Mhm.
Okay.
I had
They
emailed
don't
her,
need
I
us to-
didn't know if I was gonna make it or not. The Gwinnett Chamber has a board meeting at 3:30 in the afternoon, so.
On the 12th, I can go by the 12th, because that's the 2:30 to 4:30. Make an appearance for us.
Mhm.
That's okay.
That would be great.
Plus, I have books to return anyway.
Are they overdue?
No, no, too much guilt.
Let's see, I guess on the town hall meetings for the intersection, we're still waiting on GDOT to get us an engineer. UDO, still that's just all coordinating with the comp plan. The comp plan, I think Jason or Brian or Eric, can't remember who, sent out the email for the stakeholder interviews. If you all looked in that Excel attachment, there's designated times for council.
We have the 18th.
We've got some flexibility.
We have the 18th,
Yeah, so
3:30
Oh.
together.
take a look, Roger and Christie, they did you at 3:30, just because of your school schedule. If that doesn't work for you, just let them know.
What is this we're talking about?
This is stakeholder.
It's better if you don't
meetings.
know.
So basically, you'll.
For the comprehensive plan.
The consultants will interview you about your vision.
Oh, okay, okay.
So you and Christie will have a block and then the other three.
We only have
It
30
doesn't
minutes.
have to happen on the 18th, it just can happen between 8 and 5.
It will be on the
It has
18th,
to
you
be on
said?
the 18th.
Yeah, and if you can't make it too, they can do a follow-up phone interview or something too. You can work.
Between 8 and 5 on the 18th.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got
there's
it.
a slot for you.
Yeah,
just
you
wait
Yeah,
and see
your
if
slot
that
is
works.
11 to
You guys are
11:30.
scheduled earlier.
You and me and Dave are
But there's some
scheduled.
open spots.
But
on
you
the
can,
schedule.
you can move that if you need to.
Okay, that should, 11 to 11:30.
And then just reply if you can that you're good to go, so we can keep the spreadsheet. And so we know where we need to focus our following efforts.
It's on my calendar already.
So just read through that, just for anybody who hasn't been through that before, it's just, they just go through and ask us some questions and get you to verbalize your vision for the city.
Kind of like a deposition.
Yeah,
No,
not really.
Verbalize our vision.
Not really anything like that.
Good
It
thing you
is in
guys-
that you have an appointed time to sit down and talk to someone, but other than that, that's about
And
it.
give them your vision.
Good thing you go before me, then Dave, so I can
Roundabout, we've got some things for exec session on those. 78-124. Just the construction there, we're putting up the updates on the website and the Facebook, I think.
Yeah, I
we've been-
mean, just to say it, sometimes Roger gets them to me on Thursday, and like this week, he got it to me on Monday. So
Okay.
we're getting them,
Good.
and he is doing a good job of it, I think, to kind of keep us.
Well, it helps them too, if people know what's going on and can avoid when they can. All right, business retention and attraction, we're working on that. I think this ribbon cutting situation will be a little bit smoother than what we've had in the past. SPLOST program. Engineer work's going on for, coming up with our first segment of the trail. Nothing really new on the higher education. The 78 sidewalk is done. Butch did tell me about, one of the things on the punch list when I brought up was the crosswalk things were like not
I've noticed them
lined
now
up.
that you said something.
So there's a reason for that,
Oh.
and it's not gonna change. They can only put those crosswalks if the grade of the driveway is less than a certain amount. And so it has to be in a little bit more
So for
level spot,
visibility.
and if it doesn't line up with the sidewalk, then
Too bad.
too bad. So that's why they're where they are, to meet the code. Go figure.
We should have never gone beyond dirt roads.
Just stick with the horse.
The horses.
We should have done that.
There are places you can do that.
Sweet.
Okay, so we already talked about the comp plan, we got stakeholder meetings.
Just for information purposes on the comp plan, the steering committee task force meeting is May 3rd at 6:30. Not all of you are on that, but just so you know, that's when the first group of the task force, and that group will be called together about 6 times in there. I always hate calling them a steering committee because then they think they're in charge and steering it. It's really supposed to be a sounding board and correction board and just a support to the consultant, but that's when the first meeting is scheduled for.
Cool. Who's on that?
I
Who
am.
councils on it?
It's comprised of a lot of business people, Eric we have the list if you'd like me to send it out.
Yeah, actually, I
We
think I
used,
have.
Board of
we got
Appeals,
one person
people.
from the VOA, one from the PC, then we tried to reach out to some different, just some different people that we always get and try to get a really representative population of Snellville too. So we got some different faith-based leaders,
Okay.
some business owners, and then some other people that we see a lot, like Patrick Stewart that owns the Grove and Crescent goes on there. Just some different voices that we don't always hear all the time to be involved, and we've got pretty good response so far. But we can definitely, once we get the list knocked down,
Oh,
we can
planning,
send those
okay.
out.
This was towards planning commission, okay.
Yeah, and anybody's welcome to attend those meetings. I mean, it really is. The consultant just lets you know kind of where they're headed, and then the committee can kind of refocus them or put in some input and things like that. So it's just,
important, too.
yeah, it is. It really is.
Local people on those, so that's something.
Senior center utilization, I think there's some discussions going on with staff about, working on some new guidelines there. Ordinance development just says WTP is working hard.
I don't think we're really in charge of the working hard on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot
We have
going on in
commented
that.
on the requirements that they have to meet.
Yes, okay. SDS negotiations, that's a continuing process, and really, there's not a lot going on now, just the cities we're gathering up some information, so we're prepared for that. And then just a lot of stuff going on with long-term planning programs. Okay,
You had any SDS discussions about the recent Supreme Court decision?
no. We have a Gwinnett Municipal meeting, everybody should have already gotten emails on that tomorrow night. It's gonna be at the new City of Lawrenceville Public Works facility, which, yeah, they got a nice whole new road and red light and everything. Wow.
I bet their sidewalk things match up too.
Yeah, but they're gonna have,
Yeah.
they're gonna have fire and EMS is doing the program, that if you get there at 6, they're gonna do tours of the building, and I think have some of their vehicles and things like that available to look at, and then fire and EMS are doing the program, so it should be a good night. Talk about their services.
I don't think I'm gonna go.
All right, anybody have anything else to talk about?
I had emailed, one thing I just wanted to get some feedback on. I had some gardeners from the community garden asking if Snellville's ever gonna change the ordinance regarding chickens, backyard chickens. We're at 3 acres now as a minimum requirement, and the county has changed theirs to somewhere around a 1/4 acre for 3 chickens. And I just promised these people that I would bring it up before you and get some feedback as to whether we were,
It's a good time too now, because the comp plan is, it can have the vision part, and then the UDO will actually shape the text. And we probably get at least 4, 5, 6, maybe a month about chickens. Complaints.
Oh,
complaints.
Yeah,
Complaints
about
that we-
people having them, but we also get at the other end about when we're gonna,
Allow
then
them.
everybody assumes we follow, at least new residents assume we follow the county ordinance. So they're like, oh, no, I'm good, and you're like, well, you're not good in Snellville. So that's always kind of been a debate, and we need to consider how we wanna approach the bees too. And the
So-
county has already done that. They've got a clear policy for both, so, I think I sent it back with the
Bees and the
actual,
chicken.
ordinances on there, so you can just kind of look and see.
did you send that to all of them?
I think it's just, I'll resend it out.
Send it out to everybody.
You can just take a look at it. and see.
Because it is a question that comes up from time to time, when you're out and about. You don't look like that, it has come up
I know,
before.
I'm trying,
know it
I'm
has
trying
come
not
up.
People
to.
brought it up when we ran for office. People brought
Pardon
it up.
me?
Oh,
When we
really?
ran for office, people brought it up
Yeah.
on the chickens. There was one particular little girl who asked for it, and Tom kind of said yeah, but nothing ever happened from it. And I'm in favor of it, like however less
I'm not,
acres, more.
I'm not
acres,
sure
whatever.
how I feel about mirroring the county ordinance.
Oh, yeah, I don't wanna
mean,
mirror
that
the county, yeah,
seems
that's-
like
The
an
county's
awfully small
Yeah.
acreage.
That is
for-
just tiny.
Well,
Yeah.
the only real policy is that it has to be a certain distance from the property line, and you have to maintain sanitary conditions, and I think they were just getting overwhelmed with complaints too, so they were spending a lot of time with their code enforcement people going out to properties, and I think their answer was basically like the community supports it, so we're gonna be rid of this, burden on us, so. You just can't have any roosters, but you can have, like you said, up to 3 chickens on a 1/4 acre, and you get more as your lot size increases, and then you just have to maintain a coop, and they give you a definition for a coop and certain enforcement.
You can tell who
standards
grew
you
up in the
have to
city
follow.
when.
Is there a way to
expressions.
find out, what I would like to know is for cities that have adopted it, what kind of complaints potentially do the neighbors have to
I'll bet you
people who
Gwinnett
have?
has a million of those. I mean,
Have-
they're catching, I'm sure there's some enforcement on that end now too, on keeping the coops clean, and then somebody sneaking a rooster in or something like that. I'm sure that's what they're dealing with
There's
now.
a rooster in there?
Yeah, you start hearing them sound off in the morning, and somebody's gonna call.
I didn't know government was gonna be this much
And they're doing it
fun.
downtown, so it's very popular. Everybody's kind of doing
Yeah,
Make
the
some
farm and the many chicken houses and stuff, so.
How smelly are they?
ruffling a lot of feathers.
I don't know, I don't have one next to me, I got
That's a
one
good
across
one.
the street that I didn't know existed for years, and he had it before the ordinance changed, but he
what
didn't have
this,
a rooster.
what this one couple told me was there's a certain breed of chicken that you can have that really, they're not really messy, and they're not loud, and they don't, that doesn't seem like it's that big of an issue to have 1 or 2 really laying egg chickens. They're just laying eggs.
It just depends on people taking care of them.
So,
I
don't know.
I don't
We
know.
need to answer the question.
But anyway, I just, people
That's
next
all,
door
we
would
get
ask.
asked that.
Proceed with caution.
Oh, yeah, dogs and cats.
while we're on that topic, and then we need to get into exec session, but,
Which came first?
I got an email, and
Hard to
I'm
say.
sure it came because of the attacks of the 3 people that were attacked on Five Forks by the dogs that
Oh.
were running loose. So I got an email today, if we have a policy on the dogs, and
We don't have
I,
an aggressive dog ordinance, do we, Chief? We don't.
The county does, and we have adopted all of their ordinances for
Okay.
animal control.
so, but they don't, I don't know that the county has any, they don't have any prohibition against having pit bulls or a specific breed. You just,
No,
But they have
I mean,
leash
You could have a
laws.
chihuahua that could be declared
right,
vicious.
Yeah.
right.
You know, but it's based on the actions of the dog and the lack of action of the owner.
Right.
Which is more often the
And
problem.
it's pretty, theirs is pretty significant.
Well, that's why I thought dogs had to be on a leash or on a guide, or in a fenced yard, and that's what I said, We can have all of those laws, but it doesn't matter if the
Right.
people are gonna open the door and let the dogs run,
Exactly.
or the dogs get out of the fence in some manner. You know, unfortunately, this is,
We can always get them for aggressive solicitation.
There probably isn't anything more we can do, is there? Tony?
Well,
I mean,
Yes,
There is?
Well,
yeah, I mean, you can adopt ordinances that regulate, dogs that are of the type that have a propensity to do harm like that. There's just concepts, when you require those people to have insurance for those animals, it's usually responsible in that, you know, you don't know which ones are going to have an issue with, but once you have to have insurance, it becomes really hard to have them, because that's quite expensive, so. But other communities have regulated, have adopted, supplemented their county codes with special regulations for animals. And a lot of chicken ordinances too.
That's true.
That's not unusual for us. We've got several files of chicken ordinances. Review.
so, just
Really?
put that on everybody's radar screen too, if you wanna consider, feel like we need to do something there. We need to start that discussion, I guess.
And what about the bees? Can we talk-
Well, those
mention the
are,
bees?
Keep
in
an
our
eye on
ordinance, they're
beekeeper.
considered, we don't know, they're not defined as livestock, but we've kind of taken that precedence with them, just so we can control. One guy had like 18 hives in a small neighborhood, and he wasn't taking care of them, and they were looking for water other places, so the neighbors got upset. Most of the time, you don't even know they're there if somebody's taking care.
Right.
We just need, we don't have a way to say, well, is this, we don't have a clear ordinance. So we're, you know, shooting off the hip and just trying to, you know, play the middle the best we can without you getting ourselves.
But you were planning on incorporating that into the UDO?
Well, we need
is
to
that
have
right?
an answer. We
Okay.
need to have a policy, some very
Okay.
clear, enforceable policy, so there's no questions. We've gotten in front of the judge, and the judge is throwing it out because of the way he interprets it. That's how loose it is, because we're working off an 80s ordinance where there was a lot more farmland. There was a lot more larger lot development, so the 3 acres was pretty common. Well, now that's not happening, but
Right.
people still want to do some of that stuff. So we just, whichever way you go, we need to just be clear, that's all.
Okay. So those are all issues that will need to be answered before we.
It's an area like signs too. There's been some court cases in this area. Lilburn is famous for a pot-bellied pig. But that's the Supreme Court case where the language of the ordinance was stricken because the standards weren't clear. And, you know, it was a pet, but it was being regulated like an agricultural animal. So the Supreme Court said that wasn't clear enough. So.
They've kind of fallen out of favor for pets, haven't
Still around a
There
little bit,
was
not as
one
much.
running up my street the other day.
they? Do what? You saw one the other
There
day?
was one running up my street the other day.
Really?
I came up behind it and I said, that looks like an awful big back end of a dog.
Was it somebody's pet?
Yeah, it was, the dogs were on leashes and the pig was just following on it. It wasn't on a leash. But the dogs were all on leashes.
Well, because there's a leash law for
Leash law.
dogs. Not so.
Yeah, we need a leash law for pigs, apparently.
All right, with that, we will, during the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville,